I feel as though I'm in a position where I can do sort of nearly whatever I want. It's just a matter of putting your mind to it and doing the work. I feel as though I'm in a pretty good spot to be able to, do what I want.
Hey everyone, Rob Grub and Dan Stones here from Pravar Group, and welcome back to another episode of The Trade Den. How are you, Dan? Good to have you back.
Very good, thanks, Rob. Great to be back, actually. Powering through towards the end of the year, but good to be back and getting ready for another client feature.
I know, these are my favourite episodes, and really looking forward to getting stuck in with Jerry Redman. So big warm welcome to you, Jerry. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm going good, thank you guys. How are you guys?
We're going very well, thank you, mate. Excellent. Good to have you on board. We're going to get into this. It's going to be interesting. You're an original Trade Den listener, so it's good to have someone go all the way through to now being on the podcast. So welcome aboard.
Yeah, I know. It's actually I was actually thinking about it, and I was like, 1 year ago, even probably 14 months ago, I just started listening to it, and all of a sudden, 14 months later, 15 months later, here I am on that same podcast.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? And don't give it away because we've got a hell of a story to tell. It's been a huge 14 months. So we'll get into all of that. I think where we could start off though, as I said, welcome to you, but let's get into just getting to know you a little bit, where you're from, a bit about your background, anything you'd like to share from those young formative years.
Obviously, your name's Jerry Redman. I come from Ararat, Victoria. I run a plastering business that specialises in high-end residential and a little bit of high-end commercial in the last sort of 6 months. Got a team of 8, including myself, and admin, and it's sort of like a admin overflow, I guess you could say. Part-time estimator. Getting to the stage where things are starting to get busy. I got 2 daughters, one 3.5 and one 1.5. So as you can imagine, things are very, very busy. So,
yeah, absolutely. Plenty to fill in your time, especially with the 2 girls. They don't get any easier either, just quietly, as Rob and I can attest to. Tell me a little bit about background in plastering. Is it at a family sort of thing? I think your dad was a plasterer. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, yep. No, he was. Yep, done my apprenticeship when I was 15.
And did you did that with your dad?
Yeah, done it with the old boy. Yep.
What was he like as a boss?
Yeah, good. I can imagine. It's pretty easy to not have an argument, but obviously he was always right. Just one of those kids think I know everything. But yeah.
It was always pretty good. That's good. All right. Was the plan always to end up in plastering then? Did you sort of fall into the apprenticeship? How did you come about sort of going into the apprenticeship with your dad?
Just sick of school, like the typical story, 15, 16, sort of just, I don't know, I used to work all the holidays with him, and got to the stage where I was just sort of thought as though I was wasting time. So yeah, I jumped on with Dad and done the apprenticeship pretty early and finished really early. So then jumped into, after a few years, fully qualified, then jumped into a bit of commercial and jumped around a little bit just to different companies and, learned a lot of different stuff. So, yeah, it's something that I think that was a bit of a pivotal point, making sure that, I got in all different areas, which was... Yeah.
Nice. And how long have you been in your own business for then? You said you jumped around. How long have you been running RMP now?
Probably 9 years, I reckon. So 2014, 2015, somewhere around there. Slowly, just gradually got a person a year pretty much. But it's a typical story though. Get to the stage where it just doesn't serve you what you're being a good plasterer, or, just it gets to a point and that's where it stops. And I didn't realise that until...
It sneaks up on you, doesn't it? So let's go back, say 18 months, 14 months, however you want to class this journey. Let's get into it. You were originally a listener to the Trade Den podcast. Were you on from the first episode, or were you where did you start kick in?
I think it was about August, because I can remember it was a time where it was just I remember saying it to Rob in the strategy call. It was the timing of it was just incredibly good, because I was at the stage where I was just you know, the sort of like in November the year before, I had a chance to have an extra 2 people jump on, and I only wanted 1, but I just didn't want to miss the opportunity. So I had the 2, and it just got to the stage where, you know, start of the year I started getting into cash flow problems, and it was just sort of like I felt a little bit out of my league now. I was just sort of like I didn't know what was happening. Like I should be making more money, you know, dealing with employees, and it was sort of just like looking back at it now, I just hit something where I just didn't know where to sort of go, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to start revising my pricing, start pricing into some different areas like commercial. And then a mate gave me a link. He's like, hey, you should have a listen to this, because I talked to him a fair bit. He goes, have a listen to this. Like, I know this is, you know, you're not into, you know, that sort of side of things as far as like, I didn't even know what a coach was. He's like, I reckon if you have a listen to this, and it might give you a few insights. And I listened to it, and I was just like, I was on a treadie, and I reckon I was hiking, and I hiked for like an hour and 56 minutes. I can remember it vividly, like it was an hour and 56 minutes. I was hiking. I burnt like 1,700 calories or something, and it was one of the episodes. It was like, I think it was the first one was 50k to your bottom line, I think. And it was just everything was just, I was just like, wow, I didn't even know there's such thing as a business coach.
Yeah, awesome. That's so cool. It would have been hard yards. You're doing a hike, you're on the treadmill, and you're listening to us in the early days. That's a tough session, Rob.
It was. We've come a long way in the podcast, but it's so good when we hear stories like that. It's and I remember where our first call, Jerry, is you just churned through episodes, and you loved it. You'd listen to so many episodes, and we'll get into it today. But you'd already made a heap of changes just based on the episodes that you'd listened to, and it was it's so good to have you here today, mate, because you're an early listener, and you're an early adopter to be able to go, yep, I'm going to make some change, and then you've jumped into coaching, and it's been a wild old ride in the last 12 months, but it's been epic, and that's why we're so proud to have you here, mate, because it's you've executed like an absolute champion, and you've achieved some amazing things in the last definitely over the last 12 months. So it's looking forward to unpacking your story today.
No, thank you. It's definitely been a wild ride, but yeah, it was well and truly due, and the timing was just perfect. So
Jerry, let's just hang around this time, right? So we don't get this chance because a lot of the people we bring on to do client features are years into their coaching journey, can sort of vaguely remember it, but I'm hoping you're probably a little bit clearer. What was it like, that moment? You went from not knowing what coaching was, listening to a few podcasts, to jumping on the discovery call. What was it? What was that moment that you sort of said, yeah, bugger it, I'm going to go and have this discovery call that these guys keep rabbiting on about? And what was your sort of mindset at that time?
The mindset was like, I was actually relieved, like that there was actually something out there that was in my control. Like I remember just thinking, okay, like this is not as though, like I think it was a little bit of belief, but a bit of belief as well. Like I was just when I first sort of heard it, I was just like, okay, there is something out there or someone out there that is actually in this thing and does a lot of it and knows exactly what they're talking about, because like everything they've spoke about has been just, it resonated so much. So I think I was a little bit relieved, to be honest.
Nice. So were you coming from it at that point? We have people that come to us because they're absolutely trapped and life absolutely sucks. We have people that come to us because they're confused. We have people that come because they're confused and trapped. It sounds like you were in that confused space looking for clarity in terms of what that next step looks like to go where you knew you wanted to go.
Yeah, 100%. I knew where I wanted to go, but I just didn't know how to get there. And I'm not like afraid to say that, because knowing what I know now, I had no hope. Like I knew I had to make some serious changes to how I operate, how the business operates, and like just as a whole. So for me, it was, at the time, I didn't think, I wonder if I can afford it. And then Rob's probably going to laugh when he hears this, but he goes, it was great sales. But he actually said, I went through someone's P&L, and I bet you I could cut off what it would cost to actually have the coach. And I was just like, I actually went through it, and I was just like, this is perfect. I actually can. So that's when I made the call. I was like, I've got nothing to lose here. Like, I'm not afraid to say that, definitely need help. And I'm glad I did, because like it's not just a coach. Like it's not just business, it's lifestyle as well. And I think that I needed to change me personally to make the business change. So
You talked about that. I think looking back on your the next call, Discovery to Strategy call, the notes and things like that, you said it provided some huge perspective shifts to you, just even on that early jump into the calls with Rob, those first couple of calls. What were some of those shifts? Can you remember what the perspective was that shifted? Obviously, you didn't change overnight, but what were the perspectives that did shift for you?
I think for so long I thought that the harder I worked, same old story, the harder I worked, the more hours I worked, the better things would get. But like, it wasn't that case. I know that, what's going to sort of set me free is, systems and like having the business not so reliant on me. Like I was just a classic hamster wheel. Like the business was running me, not the other way around. So that was the perspective of thinking that I've got to work so much and work big hours and all that. It was just, the perspective was I've been working in all of the wrong areas. Like the work ethic's still there. It's just I've got to work on different things.
Beautiful. And then in terms of coming into the coaching then, so you do that, you sign up, you're into the launch program with us. How do you feel that first sort of few weeks when you sort of found yourself in there? Now you've got a group of guys, not just Rob's voice, not just the podcast, but now you've got a group of guys around you that are doing this thing together. What did you find in those sort of first few, let's call it the first couple of months?
I think how good the culture was there with the community. I think I could feel like I could call up any one of those guys at any time and they would actually help me. I think that was a pretty good thing. Like that was the thing I was really surprised with. That was like, that's one of the main things I think is really good is I guess like the community and how much you actually learn off other people in the same area.
So did you reach out to a few guys early days? Like were you one of those guys that was straight on the phone, or were you standing back a little bit and sort of finding your feet?
Yeah, I was a little bit standing back, and I'm a listener, not a talker. Like I'm happy to sit back and listen and learn. I'm not like one to be trying to tell people this or that. I'm just a listener.
Really? I would have said you're a bit of a talker. You like to ask questions. I've been on enough Q&As and stuff with you where you pipe up when you need to.
Yeah, only when I need to. Only when I feel I'm useful. As in like I have something useful to say.
So Jerry, 8 weeks into coaching, you hit your first last quarter review that we do in Pravar. It's just part of the rhythm that we have. So you're not in long, but you then wrote around, you did a really good one. I mean, some guys take a few to get into it. You sort of had this big realization, even in 8 weeks, around what needed to change, what your biggest win was, and what you'd noticed about yourself in that first 8 weeks. Can you remember what that was?
Yeah, I remember thinking like from being a tradesman to managing a trades business. And once I got that mindset shifted of I am managing these guys and this business, it's sort of like the path ahead started getting a lot more clearer. And before that, it was like, how am I going to run all these guys and be on the tools and do all this? But then I come to realise that I'm going to manage this trades business, not be in it. So yeah, that was a massive mindset shift for me, huge.
How much was that moment of clarity big for you? What did that unlock for you in that moment of clarity when you had that realization? What did that do for you?
I think accepting it, I guess I haven't fully accepted. I guess that there'd be certain elements to me that will be, it'll be always there. But I think just accepting it, put my ego aside, and just knowing now that this is, you've got to manage these guys, and that's because that's the reason why, you're probably in certain positions that is because they haven't had good management and good leadership. So it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's what it is. So.
Because even at this point here, you were still on the tools a fair bit, weren't you? You were still on the tools during the day, yeah.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, yep. And I just sort of started merging off, and that was when the cracks started to appear. And that's just a management thing. I didn't have position descriptions. I didn't. There was a lot a lot of stuff that I was missing. And when I started hearing the things that, you know, proper businesses actually have, then I realised that, yeah, no, I definitely need help with this.
This is a natural point that a lot of trades businesses get to it, and it's roughly around that million-ish dollar mark, and we'll talk through your numbers a little bit later. But the moment that you start hiring a couple of people around you, as you said, you had the opportunity to grab 2 more people, cash flow was starting to get tight, things were getting busier, multiple jobs starting to run at any one time. This is naturally when the cracks do start to appear. And as Jerry did say, is that it was a huge moment of acceptance where it's like, you know what, I am in this position because I'm trying to run a business like a tradesman. But in order for a trades business to get to the next level, there's got to be a point in time where you go, you know what, this business to achieve its full potential, being a great tradesman it's not good enough anymore. I've got to go from being a great tradesman to a manager of a trades business. And Jerry, you had that acceptance early on in your coaching journey, that moment of clarity. And for some guys, it takes them a lot longer because they don't want to accept it because they still have their identity wrapped around being a tradesman. But for you, that's what the turning point for you was, wasn't it? Where you turned a huge corner and boom, business took off for you then, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it doesn't mean like for a while there, it was hard because you want to jump in there and you want to fix this and you want to not fix things, but you want to jump in there instead of allowing them to like empower them to be able to do the things that you were doing. That there is so much more rewarding than me actually doing it. Like watching your employees and you sort of empowering them and them getting to the level that you were at, like that there is way more than me being able to do it myself. I started to fall in love with that.
Were you patient at that time, do you reckon, or were you impatient for all of this to change? Where did you fall on the patience scale?
Midway. Let's say midway.
Midway. You had your moments.
Yeah. When I have my moments.
Everyone does, but I think you're right. That mindset shift into I've got to manage this business. It's a world of difference saying I've got to do everything to managing everyone. I think that's where that conflict you're talking about, Rob, comes in. You get to that point. Well, hang on. If I go to manage everyone, I'm not even good at that. There's going to be less things happening, and more up in the air than less. But it's the only way to move forward because you need to get that time, that space, and that leverage to go off and do the strategies that we're about to jump into that Jerry had to then go off and do.
Yeah, correct. The conflict is more an internal conflict that you have. It's because you're in no man's land where you hit just over that. You hit that $1 million mark in a trades business. If you talk to anyone out in the marketplace, you say I'm running $1 million business, and it sounds impressive from the outside, but internally you're actually in the middle of no man's land. You're too big to be small. You're too small to be big. You're kind of halfway a tradesman, trying to halfway be a manager, halfway an admin person. That's that conflict that you feel. It's more of an internal conflict than anything because you're kind of getting dragged back into being on the tools, but you're trying to step up and play a bigger game. So the conflict is the internal conflict, and the chaos comes from the disorganization within the business because there is no structure, there's limited leadership, there's limited management, and there's limited systems. And so the conflict is internal, and the chaos is because there's no structure or systems. And that's where a decision point comes for a trades business. You've either got to make the decision to be able to go, well, am I going to stay here in this semi-sweet spot and run a tool belt business, or do I take the step to fully get off the tools, bring in admin, and start running an owner-operator business? And that was the choice you made, Jerry, where it's like, there's a bigger game out there, and I know I want to play that bigger game, and off I went. But it's not easy, but it comes with a whole heap of strategies you've got to execute on, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it's definitely not easy.
Definitely not easy. So let's look at some of those strategies. Let's fast forward to that sort of about 12 months ago, right? You started to really hit your stride. You've gone through the mindset and you've accepted the challenge. The next step in this coaching journey, right, as you've gone on to execute, is really starting to stack a few wins against the strategies that were required. And one of those conflicts that happens is, how do I afford all this? And a big part of that is going, well, at the moment, I know I can't, but then the strategy is not to say, well, I'll do more work. You're going to manage the business better. So you start to jump in, and around that July to September quarter, you start to work on your pricing. So this is a big one, right? This is a huge strategy and a lever that you pulled to go off and work on pricing. Now, you approach that as a manager versus a doer who's saying, well, just the more hours I walk, the more I get paid. Different world. So talk us through your experience of then pulling this lever on pricing and what you learnt and how you went about changing that.
Yeah, it was like I said, I put in Aeroflow, which was an enormous change for me. And I guess like what I found was like my pricing I needed to adjust, because like moving into a different market, starting to price on commercial jobs. So we actually targeted a new builder, and so that there was one of the game plays as well. So yeah, for a while there, I think I was under pricing, and I think like having Aeroflow and the ability to have hours and margins and markup and just having all that there was just, I guess like it was an enormous game changer as far as for our next year's work, because realistically that was what I was targeting. It was next year's work and just getting enough systems in place to be able to handle that.
Well, handle it profitably, right? You got to through coaching, you got to understand your cost base. You've got to do the build up of the prices and then put it into the system. So this is now you operating as a business owner and a manager, as opposed to just, like we said before, just going off and just doing the work with you guys and rocking up on site.
Yeah, and just putting nothing, being able to put time to jobs and areas, and that there has just been a huge game changer. Like knowing what areas of the business is doing well, like in certain areas of those jobs. So I think that was important too.
It's a super important point that Jerry's making here is, and if you haven't listened to it, go back to episodes 23, 24 and 25 that we did around pricing, because they were some of the episodes that Jerry listened to early on before he got into coaching. He'd already started making the change. But the reason why this pricing lever was such an important one for Jerry is because you've got to remember that the pricing strategy that got you into business is not the pricing strategy of where you want to go. And especially when you're in that transition period of when you're on the tools versus phasing yourself off the tools. Because when you're on the tools, you're on the job, you're driving productivity, you price the job for you to manage it, you to run it, you're billable yourself. But the moment you start phasing yourself off, you've got to price it for your team to do it. You get more understanding around the true cost of your labour. You get to understand around allowing enough labour costs and breaking it down like what Jerry was talking around. And so this was a huge strategic play that Jerry did. He pulled together Ground Plan, which is the estimation software, Aeroflow, which is the job management system, and the pricing strategy behind the scenes. He was very ambitious and actually worked on 3 at the same time, but this was such a big lever that Jerry pulled in the first instance, and it was a game changer. And Jerry, you're right, because the work you started pricing back at the end of 2024 was the work you were completing into 2025. So you had to get that right for where you were going in business, weren't you? Because if you priced that wrong, what do you think would have happened as you tried to grow?
Oh, I would have been in the same position. Yeah, just a rat race, not understanding what's going on, not allowing enough hours. As I merged off the tools, like you said, I did start to notice that, because I'm not on site, things start to change. But it's not about me being there to be able to drive them. It's about holding them accountable for a job that you've given them and you're paying them to do. So that's where I think I've struggled in the past, is that accountability side of things, and that's just, I guess, just management 101, isn't it? Especially when you're starting to get off the tools.
Correct. And can you see that by breaking those jobs down and allowing for the hours, it actually gave you something to hold these guys accountable to, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yep. And yeah, it sort of feels good to be able to, and like not only like everyone wants to win as well, like that. No one wants to not perform. So I think showing them what success looks like as well is pretty important.
It was a big one. That was the second thing that you actually did on that first review you had. It was how you showed up for the team. You actually did take a very different tack. I think you talked about having toolbox meetings for the first time where you weren't sort of filling them full of shit and just sort of rocking up, sort of going, let's have this chat, right? That was your big sort of your declaration to the group in the review, was this idea of how you were now showing up as a manager as opposed to just sort of thinking, I'll have a crack at a toolbox talk and see how we go.
Yeah. I mean, I always know what I need to say there. Not in a bad way. I mean, like, half the reasons why something might happen would be because of my management, like, and that was the reality of it. Like, I was literally doing my apprenticeship again. So there's, yeah, it's good, but there's, you know, being in that position again of being an apprentice, being that underdog, it's good, but, you know, you got to put your ego aside. That's what I've found.
And you did that. That's a huge step. I don't want to gloss over that, because being able to, what we call, embrace the suck. And the fact is, it's going to be tough, and you're going to make mistakes. You're going to say things and it'll sound weird, and it'll be like, what's everyone doing? But your ability to actually put yourself out there and say, well, no, I'm going to work on toolbox talks. I'm going to actually work on the way I communicate to the team. I'm going to give them some of the clarity that I now have, is a big step forward. And I think that unlocked, again, this capacity in your team, which allowed you to get more into what became the next phase, which was the business development side and accelerating this transition in the work you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Really good. So let's talk through then. Let's go through what the result was of these first sort of levers you pull. You go through all of this sort of stuff. We hit a quarter then that was September, November 24. Let's talk through what you did. You ended up doing a 320K quarter, which puts you on track for, let's call it a 1.3. It's about 1.28 mil as an annualized sort of run rate. How big a jump was that for you to actually hit those numbers at like the 320K quarter from where you came on for coaching? And again, we're still not even 12 months through this journey, right?
I think it's like, a belief thing. Like, it's one of those things like that, doing that was just sort of like, wow, I actually can do it. And I think when I did hit that, I sort of thought, well, righto, what's next? And then obviously the next target, and I guess like after I hit that first one, I was like, we can do this again, 100%. So I think that belief, that was the biggest thing for me, I reckon, moving forward.
Was that the first time you'd set a target in the business?
Yeah. I ran a shonky setup, Rob. I'm a plasterer. Honestly, like, yeah, I've spent so long, like so long of keeping everyone else happy, like keeping clients happy, keeping the product, like the actual product. So like, I wanted it not perfect, but and that was my whole career, whatever you call it, is just making sure that that end result is what they want, and at the cost of myself, family, and I guess cash to a certain degree. So I think finally hitting that numbers side of things was it was pretty special, and that was only the start of it.
And that was a big area that you started moving into, is really starting to pull apart your numbers and getting a greater understanding. What clarity did that give you the more you started digging into your numbers? What did you feel overwhelmed, or did you feel excited by really starting to get a grasp on them?
Felt excited, actually, nearly like to the point it was a little bit nerdy, like pulling apart like me profit and loss and out into Excel, and then, you know, making it into percentages, and then actually starting to see like, why am I spending much money on this? We hardly even use that. So, and then understanding where I've got to cut costs, and, you know, like what do I actually need these things? So that's one thing I did find. It was exciting, and like I did enjoy it, but at the same time, again, I did see things that like just didn't make sense of why I actually had them.
Excellent. And you leaned into that though. You sought out the answers. You didn't sort of shy away from it, try and protect the fact of, hey, I don't want anyone to see that I don't know this stuff. You actually turned up to your Q&A calls, and you showed up and asked questions, and you lived in there until you got it, as opposed to, well, I've sort of got to hide the fact that I don't know. And that's another big feather in your cap in terms of the attitude you took towards it through that time. Yeah,
well, I actually watched that's the first one I jumped to, was the the previous year of the knowing, I think it was price to profit or knowing your numbers, unlocking the vault. That's what it was. So I actually went back, and then I was like, how good's this? Like, I can actually go back and look at the old launch, like the year before. So I actually started going back into all that, and I actually watched the whole of 2023 or 2024, sorry, of launch before. So realistically, I've actually had 2 years. So, like, realistically, yeah. So that was a part I loved. Yeah, being able to have that access.
Yeah, really good. And what I want to do now is go from that 320K, that belief you started to have. Let's go 12 months forward now. Like that 320 that was off the charts in terms of where was it going to go to. You couldn't have seen it coming. You said you didn't know what was next, but what was next was, if we fast forward to September, November 25 now that we've just completed, we look at it now, it's about 550K for the quarter. So it's a huge jump. So from 1.3 mil annualized to 2.2. So this is now a completely different beast that you're now managing and running.
Yeah, and I can feel it.
Yeah, and tell us in terms of your words, what does it mean? What does it feel like to sort of, suppose, look back on that 12-month gap and go, geez, I went to 320, now I'm up to 550. The challenges and what it feels like when it actually happens to you.
It's just, yeah, it's a different challenge. Like, it's the same challenge, but it's just a different area. Like, I'm not so much, like, so involved in the operational side of things as much. I'm sort of more or less, a lot more delegation and a lot more, trying to create outcomes instead of me doing the doing all the time. Now it's just me managing the doing, and it's still hard, but it's so much progress. If I look back, it's the first time really I've actually had a good look back, like a couple of days ago, and just actually pulled things apart and seen how far we've come and see how far the boys have come, and obviously got admin now and part-time estimator, and it's full on, but unreal.
And Rob, I think we love these stories, right? The work that Jerry's done and the ability to generate those sort of outcomes is huge. But again, I think the important thing here is to stress that it was structured, it was planned, it was executed in stages. It wasn't just, hey, let's go hell for leather and grow this top line through the roof and see what we get to.
Yeah, correct. When I'm sitting down on a strategy call with a prospective client, what I'm doing is looking for their next real milestone in business, whether that's 12 months, 18 months, or 24 months down the line, and I'm trying to move them out of an ugly zone or a dead spot into a sweet spot. And for Jerry, he was stuck smack bang in the middle of the $1 to $5 million hamster wheel, and we were looking at manoeuvring to a $2-ish million owner operator business. And what we did is we pulled apart where he was at, where he was trying to go. And what dropped out of that was a series of strategies overlaid, which is really our launch program, which delivers that. And it looked at everything from job management systems to pricing to ground crew to admin to knowing your numbers to bookkeeping. There's a series of strategies that helps you step off the hamster wheel and step into an owner-operator business. And we did that for Jerry, and we pulled together a roadmap. We mapped out his year on a page, and I said to Jerry, I said, mate, this is probably going to take you 18, maybe 18 or more months, but true to Jerry's form, he has absolutely executed like a champion, and he's done it in 12-ish months. But it is strategic, Dan. You're right. It's not. There's a formula to it. There's a recipe here. It's one or two strategies at a time over time. It's not just try and work on everything at once. And Jerry, that's a testament to you, mate, where you've just you've followed the process and you've followed the plan down to the T, haven't you? Like, you've obviously had to adjust along the way, but you've really stuck to that initial plan, and it's really paid dividends for you, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think timing was everything. Like, there was a right time for it all, and I mean, like, through the calls, you start to understand. You know when that time is through what you're getting taught. So I feel like obviously with the admin, the timing of that was perfect. Vehicle resources, the timing of that was perfect. The pricing, the part-time estimating, it definitely is a formula, 100%. There's no way known. I would have, like looking back at it now, I wouldn't have no hope. No hope.
And that shows up in the way you approach it. I mean, going back through it, you look at it and you say, well, the first thing you sort of started to work on in that next sort of phase was ground crew and sales focus. Like you brought on or you reappointed or rehired a leading hand. You had to get that sorted, which meant that was more overhead because leading hands aren't always chargeable the whole time. So that meant we had to have a sales focus. That brought on this new version of like, we're going to go out and we're going to get a new resi builder. I'm going to really focus on my BD. You couldn't have done that if you didn't have admin in place by then. So again, you probably knew intuitively what you needed, or you could see it in your vision of how things run. But like you said, it's making the right decision at the right time that becomes the real skill of being a good manager. I think everyone can say what a good business should look like. I should have a couple more guys. I should have a couple more staff to help me out. Okay, go for it and see how that turns out. If you don't get the timing right, it can be a disaster. So I think for you, ground crew sales focused allowed you to build the affordability. And it was just another repeat of that belief growing, wasn't it?
Yeah, yep, 100%.
How did patience play out in this, Jerry? Because you, obviously when you first started getting your roadmap laid out to you, it was just all these strategies and empty boxes. And it's like, well, look what's in front of me. How did patience play out and the temptation not to work on a million things at once play out in your world?
Yeah, I'm not really impatient, but especially if I can smell it, I'm not really patient. But I think the first quarter or the first half, I come to realise that this stuff takes time, and like it's a dials, not switches. Like nothing happens overnight. So yeah, after the first half, I think I started to realise, this is going to take time. Stop being impatient. You could be here, a couple of years, and that's it. Just be patient and follow the process.
Because I think you see this enough in the community where guys try and fast track it and chase shiny lights, and chasing shiny lights through this process, it doesn't work, does it?
No. I was a little bit like that at the start, but then I think you guys drive home enough the shining light syndrome, which is a real thing, 100%. And I think there's times where I could have dived into areas that I shouldn't have, and there's times that I probably did do it, but didn't realise that until I actually finished the quarter and thought, you know what, that wasn't really a priority, and just learnt from it though.
Yeah, excellent. And that comes in, I think, like the other things you did right. One was the separation from home, getting your shed tidied up, all that sort of stuff was in here as well. So that was another one where most guys love that, right? New shed, I'm in. And all of a sudden they're going out purchasing that before they've got their team in place or they've done their sales, and even before they've known their numbers, they're already doing that because it sounds like it's cool. It's something they like to do. But you managed to do that too. The separation from home was a huge one for you over the 12 months as well.
Yeah, that's disclaimer. It's a bit of a mess now at the moment, but like coming into Christmas, you can't argue with that. So it's not a priority.
You can spend your holidays tidying it up.
Nah, I won't be doing that. I can tell you. I'll be planning it, and then the boys will be doing it.
Nice, even better. See, management 101 again.
Good delegation.
Yeah, well, what do you do?
Just like you've been taught. The other one was financial acumen. I want you to throw this story in here. I might get Rob even if he can remember. Can you remember when we started talking about this whole financial acumen, which you've developed and done a really good job, but there was a moment that you were spurred on to really taking the message to heart around knowing your numbers. Can you remember what that was?
Yeah, I can remember Britt and I, because I was watching I think it was 2024 launch, and it was it was knowing your numbers, and we're sitting on the couch, and I was just watching it on a Saturday night, and I can remember it sort of went quiet, and Rob's like, thankfully I knew that I wanted to do something, be a businessman in a younger age, and I had a guy that sort of taught me a bit, and he said numbers are the language of business, and if you can't speak the language, then you're fucked.
That was the biggest lesson you got in numbers straight away.
that was, and that's true though. It is so true. Like, it's, as much as it was like funny the way he said it, it's true. If you don't understand, if you don't get intimate with your numbers, then you're playing a game that you're not going to win.
Well put, Rob. That was one of your best quotes. That's what we got out of the year. That's the quote of the year when we do our highlights episode.
I know, I didn't even realise I said it, but obviously you say things on group calls to make impact statements, and it definitely left a mark on you, didn't it, Jerry?
Oh, I did. I can still remember this. Yeah, it's funny. It's gold.
I'm glad I created some comedy for you and Brett on a Saturday night and created a moment of laughter.
Yeah, and you had this this nice button-up shirt as well, and it actually looked good coming from you.
I love it. All right, let's turn our corner now just to a bit of personal stuff. Again, 12 months huge. I hope as you listen to this, you get a sense of the huge achievement, but the huge amount of work and the strategy behind it that went into this. So we've covered that off. Let's talk through sort of personal growth and development. So how do you see yourself now versus 12 months ago? As a person, what's changed in how you show up at home, how you carry yourself, or the habits you've now adopted? Give us a bit of how you think you've changed personally, not just the business, how it shifted, but you.
Eating in the mornings, like training in the mornings. I think if I start the day good, then the day sort of seems to run on good. Definitely eating habits. At night time, I've seen like I'm reading a lot more books. Even like say traveling in the car, I'm making sure that I'm like listening to audio books. Like I can't believe that I'm actually, a year later, I'm actually listening to business audio books. Like it wasn't me years ago, well, like a year ago, but now understanding the importance of it and the importance of good habits and eating right and starting the day good and showing up the way I should show up to the boys and girls. So yeah, I think like there was a saying though that I heard a while ago, and I'll never ever forget it. The business will never outgrow you as a leader, and that to me would hit home hard because I guess at the end of the day, it's so true. Like it's never going to outgrow me, and yeah, for me it just hit hard, real hard.
It's good. It's a big one. The consistency of your habits is what underpins most of this day. It gives you your energy. It gives you that sense of I'm centered, and centered's a funny word, but it's that idea that I'm not doing something thinking I should be doing something else. I don't feel like I've given up everything of myself to run this business or to do coaching. So I think, Rob, that consistency factor of your habits and looking after yourself with self-care it can't be underestimated, the role it's played with Jerry, even though he's sort of talking it down. The reading's one thing, but there's so much more that he did over that 12-month period.
Correct. Jerry's really embraced it within the launch group. They call him Mr. Consistent, and it just the way that he shows up to coaching, shows up to the coaching calls, shows up to his Q&A, shows up in his round tables that we have every quarter, the little launch mini communities. And just adding the photos in there around putting the what you're eating for the day and putting your boots out ready to go training in the morning. It's you've changed a lot, mate, in terms of you personally and the way you've shown up at home and as a leader and within yourself. Even just little things around your food and your nutrition and your training and everything. All these things is what has built you into the man and the businessman and the leader and the family man that you are today. It's you're chalk and cheese. I don't think you realise it, but you're chalk and cheese in who you are today compared to where you were 12 months ago.
Yeah, no, I think it's sort of hard for me to talk myself up, but yeah, no, 100%. Like I'm a different person. Like my mindset shifted. I guess my personal development, my emotional intelligence, and that has a snowball effect down the line. So like, how Brit is now, and I think it just creates a better environment all around. I think for me that's the ideal, right? Like it's to be able to do that is, yeah, it's unreal.
That's what you wanted. That's what you got into it for in the first place. So it's huge. So, Jerry, as we wrap this up, I think the one question I am going to ask you, I'm genuinely interested in this, is what are you excited about over the next 12 months? This ride you've been on has been amazing. You probably couldn't have scripted it. You're getting better at thinking about what you want and where you want to go. What have you got in your mind over the next 12 months?
I think the business identity, like who we are, like I'm starting to understand like who we are, why we exist. as well, and like the jobs that we want to do, and the type of people that I want to employ, the type of leader that I want to be, the type of manager I want to be. For me, yeah, I feel as though I'm in a position where I can do sort of nearly whatever I want. It's just a matter of putting your mind to it and doing the work. I feel as though I'm in a pretty good spot to be able to, do what I want.
Excellent. So good to hear that.
Because you've got a foundation behind you now. You've got a foundation of good resi builders you do work for. You've got a good foundation of moving into the commercial space. You've got a good foundation of good, solid ground crew. You've got a good foundation of your pricing and your job management system, and a foundation of knowing your numbers, and a foundation of some estimation support. Like, your foundation's rock solid now. For you, it's strategic growth now, isn't it? And that's what you're talking around. It's around who are we, why do we exist, and where do we want to go? You're in that really exciting phase of business, aren't you? Obviously, it's got its challenges, but you're entering into that really exciting phase of growth with a good foundation behind you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's areas where I know I need to improve. We need to improve. There's going to be those areas, but I guess the confidence now and understanding the cost of things, and understanding how to delegate, and understanding how to talk to people and be a good leader and manager. I know I'm excited for the growth ahead, and for seeing what the boys can produce. Because the last 6 months has just been, it's been awesome to be able to see them deliver the work that we're all proud of, to be honest.
And you're already doing it. You just completed one of your most complex jobs just recently, and I bet they was bloody proud of you to be able to stand back. And I know different jobs have different challenges, but it must have been a real proud moment to be able to stand back and go, you know what, I priced that all those months ago, and yes, we won that job, and look at the complexity, and look what we were able to deliver. Would have been a real proud moment for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we're still in it now, but 100%. There's been some big complexity of that job, and to be honest, I was at the stage where I couldn't do it myself. As much as, and it's a good thing that happened, is I can't get in there and do it myself because there's too many things happening. I have to watch the boys do it, and I soon learned that at the start of it, that my leadership is gonna really be tested here. So that's one thing that I've really found out of it. That's probably the biggest thing out of the whole job, is to be able to watch them and empower them to be able to deliver this job, not me.
That's so cool. Jerry, last thing, we talked about this when we were sort of setting up for the podcast, and you were big on the fact that you wanted to hopefully have people listen to this and decide to take steps like you did at the beginning. What would you say to someone who's listening to this, and maybe that's their first podcast that they're listening to of the Trade Den? What would you say to them if they're on the fence about getting into coaching, or anything to do with getting on the pathway you have?
I'd say probably put your ego aside and don't care about what people think, because probably coaching was probably the biggest game changer I've done in my business, I think. And where it's taken me is I couldn't have got here alone. So I think that's a big thing. For me at the time, maybe I handled it pretty well, but I think you just don't know what you don't know. And, if you sit and dwell on it, I think, that's a disastrous. So.
Awesome. I think, Rob, it's been an amazing 12, 18 months with Jerry. We look forward to what's coming in the years to come on the journey. But for now, I think it's probably a good spot to end it, and we might check in with Jerry as we continue through the next programs with Pravar.
Definitely. I don't think Jerry realised how well he's actually executed. To be able to go from the run rate he was doing 12 months ago to the run rate he's doing today, it's a huge jump in 12 months, but it hasn't been throw mud at a wall and hope something sticks. It's been strategic growth, strategic, well-executed growth over a 12-month period. And what Jerry's been able to do in a 12-month period generally takes someone 18 to 24 months. And because we're big believers of slower, sustainable growth. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. But what Jerry's been able to do is very strategic growth over a period of time. And I love looking at his roadmap that we have in launch, where when he first started in coaching, it was just empty. It was like we were doing this monthly run rate and this many days on the tools to all green boxes of ticks to the new run rate he's doing completely off the tools, and all the strategic plays that we mapped out in the first strategy session have all gone from not even started to now completely complete. And he's running the true definition of an owner-operator business in that sweet $2-ish million mark, admin, some estimation support, job management system, pricing, knowing your numbers, fully dialed in ground crew. Like the definition of what Jerry's got right now is a pure owner-operator business. And he's got a decision to make, and we already know what his decision is. His decision is, do I stay here and enjoy the fruits of my labour, or is there a bigger game that I have to play? And we know Jerry's opening the door to that. He's got to now enter the nightmare zone to be able to get into a bigger business. But it's there's a real journey in front of Jerry, which I can't wait to see him embark on that. But definitely, Dan, I think we check in with Jerry in 12 or 18 or 24 months' time and see how he's gone navigating that zone. Because, mate, you are destined for great things. And I don't think you realise how much you've grown as an individual, and I don't think you've realised how well you execute in a strategic manner. And we're really proud of you, mate. You've done an exceptional job in the last 12 months.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I definitely hasn't been easy, but yeah, 100% strategy was everything, and yeah, I appreciate that.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, the starting point for you to make change is to get that discovery call booked in. It's an opportunity for you to fill out the details. If you qualify, you book in a time that suits you and suits I. We talk a little bit about where you're at and where you're trying to go. And then from there, the next steps is we map your 12 months just like we did with Jerry. And what drops out of that is your next milestone. We lay the path, we get set, and it's a decision point. If you don't choose coaching, that's fine. But if you choose to jump on the path, then let's get cracking and let's get stuck into some coaching. But if this has really resonated with you and you're ready to, like, really truly committed and ready to make change, then jump across to strategysession.com.au, fill out the form, and let's get the conversation started. Thanks for joining in today. Thank you very much, Jerry. We really appreciate you joining us today, and no doubt you've imparted a lot of words of wisdom onto our listeners. But thanks for joining us today, and Dan, let's round it out there, and look forward to coming back to you next week. Until then, take care.
See you soon.